The next part of the presentation, we're sort of moving towards wrapping up the day. I'm going to report to you on major developments. Some of them will have been mentioned in the parallel sessions, but I'm going to also cover some higher level developments that have taken place and ones that we're looking to have take place during the next year. So the first thing I guess to mention, to talk about, is the identity of the person doing the reporting, because Tony Boston left the National Library in February after working for the library for 9 years in the Digital Services Project. Tony worked in the redevelopment project of 2003 to 2005, and since between 2006 and early this year was the leader of the Resource Sharing Division and of Libraries Australia, and he's gone to a job at the Bureau of Meteorology, building a database of Australia's water information resources. And so I've replaced Tony's position in the library. This next slide is just the outline of what I want to present. So I've just grouped around each of these headings. I want to make some observations about recent developments and also future developments. So to begin with cataloguing, as you know, there are 3 ways in which member libraries can create cataloguing and contribute it to the National Bibliographic Database. The record import service, where records are created locally and loaded to the NBD. We also have the cataloguing client, and we also have a simple web form. And the message, I suppose, here is that we don't actually have any preference or recommendation to you about any of those methods. You will use whichever one suits you best, or whatever combination of those methods suits you best and is easier for you and your workflow. We do, however, have some aspirations, some things we would recommend or that we would hope to see happen. First of all, we would like to have your data in the most timely way possible. And in the case of the record import service, where data is received in a batch type fashion, this means that we'd like to see that updating happen as frequently as possible. In the longer term, our goals for the record import service centre around the SRU update protocol, and it is going to be a longer term because it will take many years before local systems are able to support SRU update. But when they can, it means we'll be able to get that data in near real time. The second aspiration is about coverage. We would like to receive the widest possible coverage of your data that you're creating locally, whether it's to do with the electronic collections or special materials, as well as, if you like, the more standard and traditional collections. And we'll be working with you, particularly as a result of the recent NBD coverage survey, in looking at what the barriers are to giving us that wide coverage and to see if we can reduce or remove some of those barriers. And the third aspiration is actually about authority control. And it's kind of prompted, I guess, in a way by the presentations we had this morning, including the one by Tom Hickey. We think there's still value in having authority control work done, and I would like to encourage you to have an authority control policy in your library if you don't have one already, and to look at ways that you can contribute authority work, however modest, to the National Bibliographic Database. We are working on the ability to batch load authority data, and that will make progress in the coming year, and we should be able to take in more authority data in batch form. Those of you who use the cataloguing client are able to do authority work directly onto the NBD. And so within your defined area of interest, your policy, information about your own organisation or works created by your researchers, whatever the situation, we would like to encourage contribution. Now, Emma, just go back to that last slide. Just a major event of the last year was the CBS Software 3.2 release, which happened in November, and which gave you Z3950 access to remote cataloguing sources and has positioned us to now commence offline duplicate removal. There is another release coming, as you would have heard in the cataloguing session, release 4.1, which we expect to be implemented in December. That's going to give us SRU update, which will allow us to have near-time synchronisation with WorldCat, and it will also bring a number of improvements to the cataloguing client. Obviously, a major activity for next year will be preparation for RDA. And while the Australian implementation of RDA won't happen until 2010, we will be ready for that implementation. There'll be significant training activity happening. This was an item of discussion at the meeting with training providers yesterday, and we'll ensure that we'll have RDA compliant data that can be offered from the Australian implementation date. On the next slide, I just wanted to say a couple of words about the National Bibliographic Database, the size of the database, the fact that offline duplicate record removal is now happening. I think 21,000 duplicates were removed in the last 5 weeks or so where there were matches on LC card number. We're now going to move into a phase where we're going to match, remove duplicates that match on ISBN and that also have other matches, so we can ensure that they are genuine duplicates. And then after that, there'll be a program of working on records that match and are considered to be duplicates based on author title. There'll probably be a 12-month program of removing duplicate records before we move into more of a maintenance activity. We did do a NBD coverage survey in the last couple of months. I wanted to thank those of you who responded, which is probably most of you, because more than 200 member libraries responded to that survey. It's given us a lot of information about what's being contributed, but also what's not being contributed and what some of the barriers are. And we intend to work through your responses to understand better what those inhibitors are for contributing some types of data. And you should expect to hear from the Libraries Australia office about your special materials or collections and things that aren't being contributed, and how we can remove any barriers, make it easier for you to contribute. And document delivery, just to note a couple of things that have happened. We're still getting an increase in activity on Libraries Australia document delivery, a 10% increase last year compared to the year before. It's quite a notable increase in the use of CISTI, the Canadian Institute for Scientific and Technical Information, where they had a 40% increase in the number of requests that they satisfied, as well as the number of searches on that target. And I think they're now the second largest supplier in the network after the National Library. This is another area where we have a new software release coming, and real soon now. VDX 3.2.1 will be implemented next month. It's been tested and it will be rolled out during the next month. There'll be a number of bug fixes and minor improvements, including a drop-down action menu which will reduce the number of screens that you have to use and will streamline the workflow.